Hello, so we are finally looking at the JustFlight Turbo Arrow 4 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is the final aircraft. I've reached the end of looking at the arrows from JustFlight. So I bought them as a package, and yeah, this is the final one. And you can see it's very similar to the others apart from the tail. It has a high tail. I'm not sure of the reasoning behind it. It may well be because of experience with maybe turbulence from the wings causing the tail to be unresponsive at certain attitudes, like low speed handling, maybe with turbulence pouring off the wing causing the tail a problem. Maybe with the heavier engine it's higher alpha angles. I don't know. You'd have to go and read up online and try and find some flight test reports. I know there are write-ups online about the development of the wing of the Cherokee family of aircraft, with the extended wing root and the tapered wings, with the reasoning for it and the positive outcome on flight performance that it had. But yeah, so let's go and jump inside. So it's wonderfully modelled, just like all of the other arrows. They look like a photograph when you sat inside them. It's quite creepy, really, just how real it looks. It's like uncanny. Okay, so it has the same tablet as the other arrows, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at it. Suffice to say, we'll remove the chocks and the tie downs and go and hide the tablet. Okay, so let's go and get this started up. We're going to fly it over to the little river, by the way. We're at Boonville, so let's go and turn the batteries on, which is obviously powering up the avionics immediately. We just removed the yoke. We moved the mixture to rich. We check the fuel shut-off valve. It's on the left tank at the moment. Before we do anything, let's go and have a look actually and remove the fuel out of the aeroplane. We're not going very far. Take the co-pilot out as well. Okay, so we got fuel on rich, propeller RPM high, and we're just waiting for the Garmin to come up over there. So let's get the engine running while we're waiting. Press OK, let that capture satellites. Okay, so let's go and turn the engine over, crack the throttle open. It has a habit of dying in revs just after coming online. There we go. So I'm just watching the RPM down here, trying to hold it to 1000 RPM or so just to warm up. And we're looking at the needles here. Oil pressure's in the green, just about. Fuel pressure's in the green. In the real world, if you're following real procedures, you'd be going through turning the mags on and off one by one to see the impact on the engine. We're not going to do any of that. I have made a mistake in recent videos in describing this light and what it means. I've had to play with this now on purpose, flying around with the gear falling up and down, or falling down and being retracted again. In the middle setting, although the light goes out on the dashboard, this actually means that the system is engaged, and if you drop below a certain manifold pressure level, then the wheels will drop on their own. So I'm going to pull it up, and you'll see this light stop flashing during flight. So obviously as soon as it's not going to stop at the moment. It may wait until we're in the air with the gear up for it to stop flashing. So let's go and pull the revs back down to 1000 RPM. It's worth pointing out, this plane sounds amazing. Okay, let's go and program our flight plan into the Garmin. So flight plan page, push to get the focus, roll the inner knob, press the keyboard. We are at D83, which is Boonville, and we are going to KLLR, which is Little River, which is about 23 miles away. Okay, done. Yeah, 23.1 miles away. So if we increase range on here, we'll see the route. Just drop it down one there. We could actually pull this back round to the first page of the first page group, which shows us the rose mode. So we can go and turn on the alternator. And we should have had a light on actually outside when we started the engine. We're going to turn the nav lights on now. It's a bit late, but I'm not following checklists with this. This is really just to go and take the aeroplane for a flight and see how well it works, and just see if there's any bugs in it, really. Pitot heat we don't need just yet. We'll do that when we get onto the runway, although we're just around the corner from the runway, so let's have a look around. Everything else is looking good. We haven't done barometric pressure yet, so we'll go and calibrate the altimeter for the local barometric pressure. We've got, because we're not running the engine very fast, we've got a low voltage warning. That's because the alternator isn't charging as fast as the battery is depleting. So the more we open the engine up, you can see that light goes out. So let's see how we get on, shall we? So press F, come off the parking brake, go immediate full left nose wheel deflection. It turns very tightly. It's actually really good for ground handling, and it's nice and soft on the suspension as well. Okay, so just dropping the flaps to take off position. If this is anything like the Turbo Arrow 3, there is a boost warning that will warn us if we're using more than 40 on the manifold pressure. So we'll see how we get on with that. So let's open the engine up and go full speed on the propeller. We'll go and turn our pitot heat on now and our landing lights. I'll try and concentrate on what I'm doing. Okay, so rotate. Gear up. And we'll just do a circuit over the valley here before we set off on our epic journey. It's a nice looking plane, isn't it? So we're going to double back now. So we get inside the aeroplane to see this happen, so we can monitor the instruments as we make the turn. So you will see if I open the throttle more, yeah, we're getting the boost warning over here. What it actually means is the there's a wastegate on the engine that will drop any excess gas from the engine that the turbo can't deal with, and the light is just warning you that that is happening. It happens below 12,000 feet on the Turbo Arrow 3. I'm not sure what the numbers are for the Turbo Arrow 4. So I'm going to go and engage that system. I think that might be at the off position where it's flashing, so when you turn it on it stops complaining. I can actually show you what happened. So if we look outside, if I cut the engine back, or cut the manifold pressure I should say, keep it on the wheels, let the wheels are coming down all on their own, and if as soon as I increase throttle they come back up on their own. Quite nice, isn't it? Okay, we're going to turn around towards our direction of travel for the day. Nice steep turn here. Keeping the wing on a feature on the ground. And we'll get on our way. So we'll pull the We'll get the manifold pressure to just below 40. Well, they're saying that now we're in level flight, we can drop this back. So just watching the vertical speed here as I trim the aeroplane out. The propeller RPM can come back as well. Flaps can come up, now we're no longer climbing. Of course, as it accelerates, it generates more lift, so until you get the airspeed into an equilibrium state, then the vertical speed is going to be difficult to control. But you can see as the aeroplane calms down, he says, famous last words, it becomes easier to deal with. So let's have a play with the autopilot, shall we? So while we're flying along, we'll keep an eye on the attitude indicator up here. So we're going to turn the heading bug and our course to match the direction we're going, he says, as the plane starts to get buffeted and starts turning all on its own. Can let go of the stick for a moment. Not to be recommended. Look at the plane rolling. Okay, just coming up 3,500 feet. So what we're going to do is turn the autopilot on, turn heading on, and then we're going to click this blank patch of the fascia now, and the plane will do altitude hold. Well, that's the plan. So let's keep an eye on the airspeed, or sorry, vertical speed. Is it going to do it? Is it going to try and trim itself back down? If it doesn't, we can roll the mouse wheel here. There's another click spot just here, but I'm not quite sure if it's the same on all of the Cherokees or not. So we're coming up to 4,000 feet, so let's see if we can control that vertical speed. I'm rolling the mouse wheel while the mouse is over this bit of fascia, which is the same as the vertical speed control, but we're being thrown around a little bit. There is a little bit of wind around today, not much. It always looks worse when you're zoomed in on anything. So let's have a look on the map and see if we've got any NDBs or VOR stations. There's the ENI Vortex station over here, 112.3. I'm not sure if it will work with the radios. We'll find out. 112.30. So if we change that to active, yes, it's working. Very good. So if we wanted to say we were going to fly this radial, we could measure it on the map to get to Little River instead of using GPS. We want to be on the 283 degree radial from the, what is it? It's the Mendocino Ukiah. So we want the 283 degrees course. So if we were to go and put this on 283 degrees on the course, then we could put the heading over to an intercept course. So if we went to 320 degrees, for example, obviously the aeroplane is turning for that. So if we just have a little look at the map to see what's going on here, so I'm turning towards that radial. So we should be able to fly the radial to Little River instead of using GPS, which I think is a bit more fun. So while we're doing this, let's go and descend a bit, shall we? So I'm just pulling the RPM back so we don't accelerate too hard. Yeah, we're going really fast. So you can see here the vertical speed's weaving all over the place. It's not very good at maintaining a descent. Whoa! This is weaving around like a so-and-so, isn't it? So I'll leave it descending gently as we make our way out towards the coast. So we did end up quite high. So we're just crossing the VOR radial, so we're going to turn towards the that's interesting. Look, so we're just using heading mode at the moment, we're not following the nav. So if we go to Omni mode, we should see this track back left across the track, so let's try it. And there it goes, look. So we're now tracking the VOR signal of the aeroplane. For the course we have selected. just coming down to 3,000 feet. So let's have a look at Little River. It's quite a long runway. There's going to be on the ground 140 degrees, 6 knots wind. So interesting. So we'll do a left circuit to come in, yeah. So if we were to get 290 degrees now, that might be a good idea. So we'll switch this back to heading mode and turn this to 290 degrees. Although saying that, the wind is blowing us this way anyway, so we need to counter that slightly. So let's go for 285 degrees. And that will counter the crosswind. Although it's only 3 or 4 knots, but it's enough to push us sideways. But at least then we get enough of an offset from the airfield that we'll at least have a base leg before we come in. Well, that's the plan anyway. So should we go and turn on the... Seeing as we're doing radio nav after all, let's go and turn this on. So we're 20 miles away nearly from the VOR now. The actual distance of the airfield is 26 miles. So we are 6 miles away. You can actually see it, can't you? There's a blank patch in the trees where the airfield is. We're still descending, so we're going to stop descending now. So 2,000 feet is fine. Just keep an eye on the vertical speed. Obviously, that we're still going incredibly fast. This plane is so quick. Did we not put the... We didn't put the anti-collision lights on. But yeah, I'd love to find some reading materials on the design of the Turbo Arrow 4, about the rationale, but why they went for the high tail. There's got to be good reason for it. I would suspect it's to do with this extended wing route maybe causes the airflow to become disrupted over the tail, but I may be wrong. Okay, let's... My clever plans didn't work, did they? I've turned too far towards the airfield, so we didn't straighten up. So you can see the airfield down there. So let's go manual now. And cut the RPM back to slow down. We should see the airspeed decreasing if I just pull the nose up to hold our altitude just below 2,000 feet. I'm going to do a teardrop, so we'll turn away gently. You see the speed is gently coming off. Back to 290. Speed is getting there, so let's get the gear down. You can see the drag from the gear is knocking the speed off immediately. So we can go for the first stage of flaps. Start increasing the RPM again. It's just such a slippery aeroplane. Okay, let's descend as we go around this corner. Ooh, we're right on the edge of overspeeding the flaps, so I'm pulling the... I'm going to pull the RPM back. Of course we can't see, I need an extra hand now to dip down, so I'm going to have to, yeah, couldn't see the runway to judge the turn, so we're going to come in quite steeply and straighten up on the way in. Unfortunately, on a bright sunny day like today, even if they did have VASI lights or PAPI lights, you can't see them. Okay, so we're going to go back to a faster RPM. Obviously, as we drop flaps, we have more drag. We introduce more throttle anyway. So just trying to judge this to put it on the landing markers really. A bit low. Suddenly the turbulence vanishes. And we're floated a little bit, and oh my word, that crosswind just suddenly kicked us sideways. We were only about 2 feet off the runway, but we suddenly had a gust that threw us across the runway. Okay, so just roll long. So it flies broadly like all the others. I was surprised on approach. It didn't lose speed in a hurry at all. We had to almost just wind the engine right off to get it to lose any airspeed whatsoever, which was quite a shock really. Okay, so the collision lights and the landing lights can come off. We'll leave the nav lights on. That was interesting. Let's have a look at it as it taxis. I love watching the suspension bouncing around on these aeroplanes. This has got suspension on all 3 wheels. You can see it doing its work. It's very good. It's very well modelled. So this is Little River, KLLR, Kilo Lima Lima Romeo, on the west coast of the US. It's just up the coast from the San Francisco Bay. It's quite a long way up the coast actually. But yeah, it's a lovely little airport. It's a great part of the world this, to do GA flights. There's lots of small interesting runways in valleys and it's good fun. Okay, so we jump inside and actually do this somewhat properly for a change. So we're going to come in on the guy that's waving his paddles. being a bit presumptuous. He's already indicating to us, even though we're nowhere near him. There we go. So engine is pulled back to idle. Use the last bit of fuel up by cutting the mixture. Turn the magnetos off. Turn the pitot heat off. Turn the alternator off. Turn the batteries off. We should have gone and turned these various bits of hardware off around the cockpit. We didn't. So again, not using a checklist today, just doing things vaguely in the right order, but obviously nothing really replaces a checklist. And people that kind of say, oh, I know this plane backwards, yeah, that's just an accident waiting to happen. Okay, there you go. So following doing this video, that's the end of me doing these kind of play around flights with the JustFlight arrows. I will be returning to the training course very soon, so I'll be doing things like power on stalls, power off stalls, climbing turns, all that kind of stuff, all the basic airmanship stuff that's in the textbooks, and I'll be recording it and showing you how I get on with it. But anyway, for the moment, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.